Hello everyone, I'm Denise Love, and today let's do a new color palette challenge. So let's get started. Let's pull a color palette card from Color Cube 1 by Sarah Renee Clark. And I'm just going to do a blind pull. Let's just pull something out. I don't know what all these look like, so let's see what we get. And we do reserve the right to not do those colors if we decide we don't love them, but I'm kind of feeling it, so let's go for it. This is so far outside of anything you've ever seen me do, maybe ever. So I think that's what's going to make it fun. So color palette card 35, and we've got some magenta, marigold, yellow, light green, sky blue, so some really bright fun colors. So let me gather some supplies. I'm just going to look through everything that I've got here and pull out just a variety of things to paint and mark make with. I'm working on a 12 by 16 piece of Stonehenge 140 pound cold press paper. So it is a very large sheet, and so I have divided it into 4, 4, 4, and then 4, 4, and I wasn't super exact. I did mark it with a pencil, but I can see like right here this square is a little smaller than that square, so in my taping it wasn't exact, but that's not really the point for me. You can get real exact if this is something that you truly enjoy doing. I do it like this, and then I can cut them up into little fun pieces, and we've had a fun day painting and exploring new color palettes. This is a day of exploration. So let me grab some fun supplies and I'll be back. Alright, I have pulled out some acrylic paints to play in today. I got as close as I could. I'm not looking to mix colors in these videos, so I'm looking to just experiment in a color palette and get close. Doesn't really matter to me if it's exact. I'm just trying to experiment within this range and see where that's going to take me. So I've pulled out Blick Brilliant Magenta. It's a matte paint by the Blick paint company. I've got Liquitex Basics Yellow Oxide. I've got Liquitex Basics Light Green Olive, which is a shade darker than that white, than that green, so I can just add some white to that. I've also pulled out some Blick Green Light, which I thought was maybe a shade lighter than that, but really as close as I could get with what I have, because these are way outside what I normally would use. And then Liquitex Basics Light Blue Permanent. That looked like it was right on. And then I pulled out some Neocolor 2 crayons. I've got Orange Yellow. I pulled out Purple, which kind of looks like that pink. I pulled out Lime Green and Yellow Green and Turquoise Blue, and I thought that's where we would at least get started with this color palette. So I always consider white, black, gold, silver kind of neutrally colors, so we may see those pop in there, especially maybe the white, and then we'll just get started. So if you have a fear of the blank page, you can draw on it first. I like to do that a lot, so we could pick a color and start mark making, and then we've kind of got started. And I'm painting on the entire thing like it's one big piece of art, so that it just keeps going. And then when we peel the tape and cut it apart, we're going to have 12 fun little masterpieces. I really like the blue quite a bit, so I'm just gonna, that's almost like the other one that we pulled out. It's very close, isn't it? Might not have been enough contrast in those two greens. So at this point, I'm not worried about composition. I'm not worried about colors and where I'm putting things. I'm exploring and having some fun, and then just seeing where we can go. So I've got a little paper palette. This is the Gray Matters disposable paper palette, and I might just start with some paint colors out here and just seeing what we can get. that's pretty close to our palette. If we compare the colors that we got out there, I got pretty darn close for just pulling something that I happen to have on hand and seeing how close we could get. I'm doing pretty good. Let's get a paintbrush. This is a Princeton Umbria. I don't know exactly what it was. It's got the handle covered with paint, but it's just a kind of a roundish brush there. And I'm just going to grab it and start spreading some paint out here and just seeing where we're going to go. And I don't have to have every color on every palette. That's completely up to you and how you decide to do your collection. But I do kind of like to spread it around and make it look like it's some semblance of the same set. But just experiment. It doesn't have to all be the same. You can, if you think that these two greens don't go on the same piece, which now that I've done this, I really don't think they go together. So I could have maybe picked a little different, but now I know. You can kind of spread it around to the other palettes and be okay with that. And you can mix them and see, what do you get if you have the two colors mixed on your brush like I just did. And if you put a color on here and you think, ooh, wonder what that would look like lighter, don't be afraid to add in some gesso or some white paint. I really like the gesso because if you plan on doing anything on top of this, like, now that I thought of that, let's just get the gesso down here. I'm going to use white gesso. If you plan on doing anything on top of this, like pastels or anything, this is acrylic paint, and acrylic paint is plastic basically, and you're not going to be able to draw on top of the acrylic paint a lot of times. And so if you mix that acrylic paint with gesso, you kind of fix that issue. Gives it enough grip for stuff to stick to it. And it makes the paint super blendable. I like how blendable the paint is, even with the clear gesso. I've got clear gesso up here too. These are just the Liquitex Basics, Liquitex Professional Clear Gesso and White Gesso. And I always like to have those out. And mixing them in my paint, I like the blendability that it gives me with the paint too. It's different than just the straight paint. I like the pink and the, looks like green gold really. Let's grab another one of these, same things. Oh, this is the Filbert 5/8 inch. I like these when they get really pretty and the handles have stuff all over them because they make really pretty photo props. All right, say it with me. Hot mess. We got a hot mess. I'm gonna let this dry a little bit. I'm gonna color on top of this maybe with maybe some stencils. We'll see. This is a hot mess at the moment. We might come back and do some mark making in some of these colors and kind of build up the layers. We can actually, let's just mark make now. Let's just not even leave and come back. I have some favorite little cardboard mark making things that I like to use, and I've just collected these from saving up boxes and packing supplies that have come, and I was using these for a long time with my oil paints and my cold wax and oil paints. I've got some fun stuff. And so, thinking this one right here might give us some really cool lines. So, let me just get one of my paintbrushes back out here. Maybe we'll paint some of this on. I love corrugated cardboard. Look at that. And sometimes you'll do something and it's just not rescuable. I'm not saying we're there yet because we're still piling on some layers, but I'm just saying we all get there. It's not a big deal. let's see, what do we want to do? Maybe I want to do some lines with just my pencil. I use these with the lead out, doesn't matter. I'm just kind of dragging through the wet paint to make some interesting marks and to kind of reveal what's under some of the paint layers. So let's just do that a little bit. And then if there's no paint to drag through because it's dried, then it'll leave pencil mark, and that's perfectly fine. That's why I leave the lead out. All right, I'm doubting that we're gonna get anything that we love. Let me let this dry a second. So I just happened to think one of the little mark making tools that I like to use are some cheap little wood sticks with like a sponge on the top of it. And I got these at Michael's a while back, just walking around looking at what options that they had. So look around and see like what's in your art supplies, what mark making things do you have that you could grab and start making some interesting something. I don't even know what these are called, so don't ask. They're sticks with a sponge. You could do this like with a pencil and an eraser on the end probably. I just like them. Got a little bit of white gesso. Ooh, I like the white dots. Yes, for the lighter, whiter ones with the gesso there. And then I just wash them off, like just rinse it off, and then we'll just try to use it again some other time. That was pretty fun. We could do some dragging. We could do some mark making. I don't know if this is dry enough yet to mark make on top of. All right, now let's just see. I'm just gonna, oh yeah. I really love this blue, this turquoise blue on top of that pink. It just kind of pops off and it just spoke to me. So that was pretty cool. All right, so this one that's called Purple looks amazing on top of that bright green. These are fun little things that you'll discover doing stuff like this. Like, oh, it doesn't show up much on one color, but ooh, look what it did on this other color. That's the discoveries and the things that I like to figure out when I'm doing stuff like this. And I like to do some messy mark making and some pattern and dots and lines and dashes and things like that, just to kind of get us having fun and experimenting and discovering things that were like, oh, didn't even know that would do that, you know, that kind of thing. Okay, let's get out something fun and maybe do some white on top. What do you think about that? What do you think about some white? Get the white paint out. This is just the Liquitex Basics Titanium White. I like a little bit thicker paint. That's why you see me looking for some of the thicker ones for these. And this is a Crafter's Workshop stencil, TCW 248S. And it's something with little squares all over it. And I link all the supplies that I can find under the video, so definitely check under the video for links to the different things that I'm using, because I always try to link those for you guys. Ooh, see? Look at that. Totally made what I was looking for. And when I do stencils, sometimes I dab, sometimes I rub, just preference. See what works best for you. I don't try to go edge to edge on the stencils. I like it to be a little more organic and flowy. Look at that. So I was actually seriously doubting because of the colors. I know you do this too. You get into something that's outside of your comfort zone and you think, oh, I don't think I'm going to pull it off this time. And then you'll layer on top and you'll get to an element where you're like, oh, totally pulled it all together. So, yummo. Oh, see? Layers. Layers are what make abstracts so interesting. So if you're like, oh, not there yet, add some layers or cut it up. And I like doing 12 or 3 or more than one. Just more than one, because what if the one I did really was terrible, like maybe this one, and I never did get to making, say, like these, and so I never did get to the ones that I'm like, holy cow, that looks amazing, because I only did one. Whereas if you do 12, you always have a good paint day. You've learned something new. You have fun little pieces of art to walk away from your table with. Always have a good paint day with you guys doing stuff like this, because trust me, I doubt just like you doubt, and I'm thinking, how am I going to pull this one off? And so far, I've not had to delete video footage because I just couldn't get it somewhere by the end. Because I always start off thinking also, just for my own peace of mind and well-being, I think, well, if it doesn't work out, I can always delete it. But crazy enough, I've not deleted one of these yet. You've seen all my experiments. Because this is basically my experiment channel, where I figure out new skills and new tools, and I play, and that gets me to my next classes that I make because I've spent the time experimenting. Look at this. Oh my goodness. This just got so exciting. Like that right there, I feel like we've made it. So we could come back with any kind of mark making that we love. If you like to do Posca dots, we could do some Posca pen. I'm not feeling like this set needs any black, but I could come back. Maybe I'll move this where I don't stick my hand in it, because you know I'm bad about doing that. And we could come in with some additional fun mark things and dots. Do I want any? Do any of them need it? I don't know. I'm kind of feeling like maybe we're there. Yeah, I do. I feel like possibly we're there. All right, let's let this dry. We'll cut these up, and then we can always decide after you cut them up, you can always continue to embellish at that point if you're like, oh, now I see where it needs something. Because you just might not see where it needs it until you get it cut up into little pieces. And if your tape pulls your paper, you can slow down. You can also heat that tape up with your heat gun, and that will release the tape. This paper's extra. Peeling tape is like magic. It all of a sudden, you can now start seeing compositions that look incredible. Whereas before, I was like, I don't know, but let's cut these up and see. This is my Fiskars paper cutter. Somebody always asks what the paper cutter is. It's a Fiskars, Fiskars. And I just kind of eyeball it again. I'm not kind of eyeballing it with the ruler there, trying to get about the same amount of stuff peeking through each side. There we go. And I could come back and trim later if I really want to have, say, oh, you know what we could do? We could totally do deckled edges, because I left enough paper on these to deckle those edges. Oh, a little bit of fun. If you have one you really, really love, we can do that. Look at these, this one and this one. Those look so delightful and cheerful. And I'm like, okay, that right there, that made the whole day right there. Those two. Oh, we're gonna look at all of them, but let's finish cutting them up. But that one just kind of gave me a pause because I'm like, oh, amazing, amazing. Okay, I'm gonna go grab my deckled edge cutter. Oh, I don't even have to go grab it. It's right here beside me. This is that Tim Holtz tonic deckle edge. And, you know, I don't even remember which ones I said were delightful. Now they're, oh, here we go. Okay, it's one of these. Let's just see what this does. Okay, let's just get it out here. Kind of lining it up. How much of that edge do I really want to cut? Did I cut enough? Ooh, maybe a little more. Let's just cut a little more. Because, look at that. Oh my gosh, you guys, it's ridiculous how fun this is when it works out. Look at that. How wonderful is that piece there? So I think I'm definitely going to cut all the edges off while you are watching the speed up. And if you have any that you're not sure of and you're like, I'm gonna stop with those for the moment. If you have any that you're like, I don't know about this one, don't be afraid to cut out some heart prompts or something. I've got some of these little heart paper cutters and I do like these. I like this one least. Don't be afraid to come in. We'll cut this edge off. I'm gonna cut this one up anyway. Why not? And you could use these for collage papers. I don't have any current plans to do collages on YouTube, but I have several collage classes on Skillshare. So you can use these as collage bits and pieces and papers. And we can cut these up to be little heart prompts. And then this would be perfect if I added some gold to it, but look at that. Then we can write like a little art prompt on the back and we can add it to our cute little jar that we've been making of different prompts with different kinds of art that was kind of terrible to begin with, but look amazing cut up into these little pieces. I mean, some of these were so ugly, and then you can put a little prompt on the back and we can just pop those right into our art prompts, and we can save some of this for collage paper and bits. Don't be afraid to cut those up. You can give these away as micro pieces of art, sign the bottom, send it in a card, all kinds of things. You can frame the little bitty pieces. I don't throw any painted pieces away. I don't keep little paper scraps like this usually, but I do keep any painted scraps. But look at these. Let's just look at what we got. This one, I love that one. And now we can see too different composition ideas, different ways to lay color. If you had any that you were like, oh yeah, this one, you know, you could save that as an idea for, you know, how the composition worked for you, how the elements that you layered in there started to work for you, because I particularly love this one. And I like that nothing's in the center. It's all around the center, keeping the eye moving around. I like all the layers that we created as we built the paint up and added marks and textures on top. So this one I love. I love this one. Is there any others that I love? I really like this one, but I tore the paper. That's why I started using the heat gun. So if you have any that you tear the paper on, don't be afraid to cut those up for your heart prompts. This one is really pretty. So I like the different ideas for composition and color. And if we check out our original color inspiration, how did we do? I think we did pretty darn good today with our original inspiration and our lovely pieces of art that we created from this color palette. So I can't wait to see what you're creating. You're welcome to tag me on Instagram at Two Little Owls Art. You're welcome to join the Facebook group that I have for Art Peeps. I'll link all that below the video, along with all of the supplies that we used in class. And I'll see you the next time I want to do a color challenge.